What is up, guys? Welcome back, or welcome to Running for Views. Today we're going to be talking about fueling like a pro runner. But before I get into that, did you know that 89% of you aren't subscribed? Hit that subscribe button or no carbs for you your next race. You'll never make it to the finish line. Subscribe already. Just kidding. Please subscribe. Thank you. Now, over the weekend, we had a huge race happen, which was the Canyons 100K. It was the last race to get into Western States 100, the last chance to get a golden ticket, and the competition was hot. So in the end, the winners of the race were Katie Scheid, who actually finished 6th place overall. And for the men, we have Rob Farvard, who's actually been struggling for these last few years and was finally just able to put everything together. But what did he end up doing different in this race compared to his other races? He hired a nutritionist. That's what he did different. He got a nutritionist. He said in an interview after the race with Free Trail that on average before this race, he was averaging 60 grams of carbs per hour for your rate. That's not enough carbs. Then this race, he averaged 100 grams of carbs and won the thing. Like, do you see the difference? 60 to 100 there. You can literally change your races if you're just able to fuel more, get more carbs in. So Katie Scheid, like I said earlier, was the overall women's finisher and finished in 6th place overall. And she won the women's race by 50 minutes in a 100K race. That is crazy. And guess how many grams of carbs she was getting an hour? 90 grams. And hot take, I think that in the next 2 years, Katie Scheid will be the greatest ultra runner on the planet. Was Courtney? Katie Scheid is going to be beating Courtney in these next 2 years. I can almost guarantee it. And one of these big reasons why I can almost guarantee that she will start to beat Courtney is because Courtney is not taking as many carbs as she is during races. But yeah, comment below if you agree with me that Katie Scheid will be the greatest ultra runner of all time. And if you don't agree with me, I don't want to hear it. Another athlete who's had their nutrition dialed in is Tom Evans. Tom Evans has won Western States. He's podiumed at UTMB. And this year he is putting everything in to UTMB, and I think that he will win. And you know why I think he's gonna win? Because he's fueling with 120 grams of carbs per hour. All of the pro runners are saying this again and again, that Tom Evans is the pro's pro of ultra running. He is taking ultra running to the next level. He goes above and beyond in his training and out of his training to make sure that he is as good as he can possibly be. He has sports psychologists, he has massage therapy, he's gotten fueling dialed in. He is just beyond a pro, and how most ultra runners, how most pro ultra runners are actually wanting to be. And Hayden Hawks, I would say, is trying to follow his example, and it is working. Speaking of Hayden Hawks, guess how many grams of carbs he was taking when he won the Black Canyon 100K? 109 grams of carbs per hour. Do you see what I'm getting at? That the best of the best are fueling with over 100 grams of carbs an hour? Another professional ultra runner that I've actually done a video on recently is Jim Walmsley. I'm sure that you know the name. He is the biggest name in ultra running right now, that's for sure. When he won UTMB in 2023 and became the first American male athlete to win UTMB, guess how many carbs an hour he was taking? 100 grams of carbs per hour. Killian Jette, the greatest ultra runner of all time. Guess how many carbs he was taking during his win at UTMB in 2022? 110 grams of carbs per hour. So I'm just gonna quickly go over some of the most popular brands and which pros are using these brands to fuel with. So Never Second is the first fueling brand that I'll talk about. Katie Scheid and Jim Walmsley are both using Never Second, which is a great fueling source. I've never personally used it, but I mean, if Katie Scheid and Jim Walmsley are using it, I can assume that it is a very good product. Next up, we got Marutin, and guess who's using that? Killian and Tom Evans, maybe two of the greatest athletes. So Marutin is actually a more expensive product. This is like more of the high-end fueling. So if you are using Marutin, good for you. I don't personally use it, but yeah, the greatest of the great are using Marutin. So next up, we got Precision Hydration, and the athletes that are using this are Hayden Hawks and Dan Jones. These are the two big athletes using this brand. Oh, and David Roach, he is a lover of Precision Hydration and talks about it constantly in his podcast. Then we got GU, and the athletes that are using this are Leah Yinling and Tim Tollefson. And then we got Tailwind, that's used by Courtney and John Kelly. Lastly, we got NAC, which is actually the nutrition sponsor of UTMB, and the athletes that use this are Matthew Blanchard and Marianne Hogan. So most of these brands have gels and drink mixes, and most of the pros are combining a mixture of gels and drink mixes during their races. So an example of this is Killian Jette, who in 2022 talked about his exact fueling strategy that he used. So he said that every hour he was drinking an 80-gram carb drink mix, and then every 2 hours he was taking one Marutin bar, which is equal to 40 grams of carbs. So that equals 100 grams of carbs per hour, and that's not including the food that he's eating at aid stations. He says that he likes eating soup and rice and avocado and just nice carb-loaded food. And he said that before big climbs, he's taking one gel before the climb, which will help him get up to the top as fast and efficiently as possible. So in total, he's probably averaging around 120 grams of carbs per hour. Some other things that the elites are doing are taking sweat tests. So sweat tests just see how much liquid you're sweating per hour and how much salt is in your sweat. So these sweat tests are a great way to find out how much salt you're gonna be needing per hour and how to replenish those electrolytes that you're losing through your sweat. It also helps you figure out how much liquid you're gonna be needing to consume per hour of your race, depending on if it's a hot race or a cold race. So Precision Hydration has a place on their website where you can schedule an appointment with a person who will do a sweat test for you so you can figure that out for yourself and see how you can take your performances to the next level. And if you don't want to do a sweat test, you can just do different drink mixes and different gels and figure out what works best for you so that you're not cramping or feeling nauseous. Also, a lot of elites are using electrolyte tablets or salt tablets. So these are just little pills that have a bunch of electrolytes that will help you replenish those as you're going throughout your race. And if you start cramping or feeling nauseous, if you pop a couple of these tablets, it'll really help, guaranteed. These also help with dehydration. So if you're dealing with dehydration during a race, make sure that you're taking in liquid and replenishing electrolytes. So in my opinion, fueling is the new frontier of ultra running. Pros are getting faster because they're training smarter, sure. But what's really different in my opinion is that they're actually fueling correctly for these races. Now I can go on and on and on about how many grams of carbs this ultra runner is taking and how many grams of carbs that ultra runner is taking, but you get the point. What you want to know is how many grams of carbs should a normie like you be taking during a race? So in my training, I finish in maybe like the top 25% of races. What I'm doing is doing 100 grams of carbs per hour. And that's just a recent thing that I've started. During my long runs, I am now taking 100 grams of carbs per hour. And I plan to carry that over to my race this summer at UTMB. So what nutritionists are saying for just normal ultra runners like me and you is that we need at least, very lowest, 70 grams of carbs per hour. This is for mid-pack runners to back of the pack runners. 70 grams of carbs per hour is the very lowest. You should hopefully be getting a lot more than that. But even that 70 grams of carbs per hour can feel like a lot. And that is where gut training comes in. So gut training means that you're training your stomach to increase the amount of carbs that you're taking in per hour. So on average, a lot of nutritionists said that you should be doing this 1 to 2 times a week, just practicing upping the amount of carbs that you're taking in. So that means that you're going to be needing to practice your nutrition in your long runs or your back-to-back long runs. These are the best times to practice your race's nutrition. So back-to-back long runs, I would say, are the perfect place to really test your race nutrition and make sure that it's dialed in. So for example, on that first day of your back-to-back long run, it'll feel like that first, let's say 30 miles of a 100-mile race, if you are following my 100-mile training plan, which of course you are. Then on that second day of your back-to-back long run, you're going to feel like you would in the middle to end of a race. So this mimics it perfectly, the beginning of the race to the middle/end of a race. And you're gonna be fueling like you would during a race for these back-to-back long runs. So make sure that you are getting in 70 to 120 grams of carbs per hour during your long runs and back-to-back long runs. Once you're able to do this, that is how you will know that you are ready to race. So another thing to keep in mind is that if you're only able to follow that nutrition plan for the first 5 hours of a race and then not follow it for the rest of the 24 hours that you're out there, that is better than nothing. Just the longer you can go following your nutrition plan, the better. So if you can just do it for the first few hours, you have to take a few hours off, then you start up again, just whatever you can do, just be getting in as many grams of carbs per hour as possible, especially at the beginning of the race, because it will help you immensely towards the end of your race. So this is just like a little side tangent. The main thing that prevents me from taking in as many grams of carbs per hour as I should be doing, just like in training runs and long runs, is the cost of the carbs. So on average, a gel or a drink mix costs around $1 to $2 per one. And that adds up very quickly. So let's say that you're trying to get in about 100 grams of carbs per hour. This will cost you anywhere from $3 to $6 an hour. So here in France, where I live, we have a store here called Decathlon, which is a real lifesaver. So here I'm paying 4 cents per carb for gels, and then 1 cent per carb for drink mixes. So what I do is I combine 2 packets of drink mixes, which are 35 grams of carbs each, into 1 water bottle. So that's a total of 70 grams of carbs in 1 bottle. And then on top of that, I take 1 gel per hour. So in total, that comes out to be 93 grams of carbs per hour. And then I'm adding in a few snacks, some chips, some pretzels maybe, which comes out to be 100 grams of carbs an hour. But yeah, for me, that comes out to be $1.62 per hour that I'm spending on my carbs. So like I said, that is the cheapest of the cheap carbs. And maybe they're not for like elite runners or the people who are running at the very front of races, but it's what gets me to that finish line. So compare this to brands that the elites are using, like let's say Marathon. It's a whole different story. So for Marathon, it costs 11 cents per gram of carbs for gels, and then 4 cents per carb for drink mixes. So it's about 3 to 4 times the cost that I'm paying for my nutrition. Now you could argue that they're more expensive because they work so much better and they're able to help you push to that next level, but I'm poor. I don't have that kind of money to be throwing around. But yeah, all that to say, if I were you, I would just be trying to find the cheapest drink mixes that you can find, because those are usually the cheaper option in the end, and using that to fuel your training and races. Also, gels are really gooey and sticky, and they are not fun to take. And at least for me, goos sometimes make me feel really nauseous when I just have to slurp those down, and the drink mixes just go down a lot easier. But yeah, I've done a whole video on what the cheapest gels and drink mixes are, so I'll link that up here so you can go check that out and see what you think the best option for you would be. So I just want to finish off this video by saying that a lot of the runners who are struggling the most right now are the runners who just don't have their nutrition dialed in. So not to throw shade at anyone or anything, but Matt Daniels, I think, is a really big one who is struggling a lot with his nutrition. And if he just got that dialed in, he would, I think, easily be winning any race that he entered. But I listened to the Boulder Boy podcast, which is a really good podcast actually. But he talks a lot about in there how he just doesn't fuel during races. He says that he goes entire 50Ks without taking any drink mixes or gels or anything like that. He just doesn't have anything. And so I think that if he was able to start adding in nutrition to his races, which seems obvious, that he would be able to do so much better. But yeah, Matt Daniels is awesome, but he just needs to figure out his nutrition. But yeah, like any race that I would say 50K or under, you might be able to get away with not fueling at all. Like, it's definitely not a good idea, but you could do it. But any race that's over 50K, you need to be taking that 70 to 120 grams of carbs per hour. And this will greatly increase the number of races that you're able to finish. And not only finish, but finish very well. Finish in PR times. You're gonna be doing so well. But yeah, what do you guys think? Are you gonna start adding more carbs into your training and racing and see if they'll help you reach that new height or that new PR? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, and if you liked the video, smash that like button, because 1 like equals 1 more gram of carbs that you're able to take in per hour. Goodbye.